Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Extension Development Studies, SOEDS, Diploma Postgraduate Diploma Programs, Postgraduate Diploma in Animal Welfare, PGDAW, MAW 00 Animal Welfare Issues, Block-1 Animal Welfare Issues in Dairy Animals, Unit-2 Welfare Issues in Dairy Animals, 2.1 Learning Outcomes, A. Knowledge and understanding. After studying this unit, you will be able to identify specific animal welfare issues in dairy animals and calves, explain the reasons for practicing painful dairy animal management, practices procedures, B. Practical and professional skills. After studying this unit, you will be able to discuss the specific animal welfare issues in dairy animals and calves, demonstrate the welfare concern behind each practice, and suggest alternatives to improve welfare of dairy animals. 2.2 Introduction. Dear learner, in the previous unit, you were introduced to the concept of dairy animals, role of dairy animals in milk production, different dairy production systems, and general animal welfare concerns among dairy animals. There are several welfare issues, practices in housing, feeding, breeding, and healthcare of dairy animals, which are painful and cause stress. In this unit, some specific welfare issues pertaining to dairy animals' calves are discussed for your comprehension under the following heads: 1. Disbudding, dehorning and horn tipping; 2. Tail docking; 3. Animal identification methods; 4. Lameness; 5. Mastitis, infertility, and hormonal injections; 6. Welfare issues in urban dairy animals; 7. Surplus dairy calves; 2.3 Disbudding, dehorning and horn tipping; 2.3.1 Disbudding. Disbudding is the removal of the undeveloped horn buds from a young dairy animal. The horn buds are cauterized and destroyed before they are grown into horns. Early age disbudding is preferred rather than dehorning older animal. Fig. 2.1. Following are the most commonly used disbudding methods: thermal cauterizing of the horn bud by a trained operator using an electric dehorner is the recommended method in order to minimize postoperative pain. This should be done around 4 weeks of age before the horn bud has attached to the skull. This is the preferred method usually, but with anesthesia and analgesia, e.g. in Europe this is promoted and in some countries cannot be done except with anesthesia. Removal of the horn buds with a knife or scoop when the calf is less than 2 months old. Application of chemical paste or caustic potash to cauterize the horn buds when the calf is less than 1 week old. Avoid chemical burns to other parts of the calf or to other calves. This method is not recommended for calves older than 2 weeks. 2.3.2 Dehorning. Dehorning is the process of removing the horns of adult dairy animal. It involves the removal of the horn by cutting or sawing through the base of the horn close to the skull. Horns are removed mainly due to 2 reasons: A. As part of treatment, e.g. horn fractures due to accidents or disease conditions, like horn cancers. Fig. 2.2. B. As part of dairy farm management procedures to avoid injuries to handlers or other animals in the farm and to save feeding, watering, and transportation space. This should be avoided by early disbudding, and this should only be used as a therapeutic. Box 2.1. 2.3.3 Horn tipping. Horn tipping is cutting off horns pointed end in mature dairy animals that were not dehorned. It is less stressful on the animal as there is no blood loss and absence of nerve endings at the tip. It reduces the risk of eye loss and puncture wounds, but does not eliminate the bruising damages during animal fights. The arguments supporting and against disbudding dehorning horn tipping are summarized in Box 2.1. Box 2.1. Disbudding dehorning horn tipping. A. Supporting arguments. Horns may cause injuries to handlers or other animals. Horned animals take up more space for feeding, watering, transportation, etc. Ideal for loose housing system. Injuries cause damage of hides, Horned animals may require specialized equipment, such as feeders and ungulate crushes. In some breeds, horns may grow towards the head, eventually causing self-injury. Horns may become broken, causing blood loss and potential for infection. Horned animals may become trapped in fences or vegetation, causing self-injury. B. Against arguments, welfare concerns, dehorning and disbudding without anesthesia is extremely painful to the animal. Horns are the natural defense mechanism to protect self and calf from predators. Horns provide a secure point for roping or holding the animal's head. Horns are traditional and breed standards may require their presence. For example, Hallikar cattle breed in Karnataka. Horns are of cultural significance, often being decorated or even trimmed into strange shapes. In very hot climates, horns are useful for thermoregulation and cooling. The general guidelines given by OI to minimize pain during these procedures are summarized in Box 2.2. Box 2.2. Disbudding dehorning horn tipping guidelines to minimize pain. Guidance from a veterinarian paraveterinarian should be sought on A. Optimum method and B. Timing for the type of dairy animal and production system. Use of anesthesia is strongly recommended when performing disbudding and should always be used when dehorning. Appropriate restraint systems and procedures are required when disbudding, dehorning or horn tipping. Operators should be trained and competent in the procedure used and be able to recognize the signs of pain and complications that may include excessive bleeding or sinus infection. 2.4 Tail docking. Tail docking is partial amputation of 1-3 RD to 2-3 RD tails of dairy animals, which is usually performed on preparturient heifers or calves near weaning age. In several dairy farms, tail docking is practiced as a management procedure to maintain hygiene. Different methods of tail docking are cauterizing with hot docking iron, application of tight rubber bands, surgical removal with or without anesthesia. The application of a tight rubber ring is commonly used method. The rubber ring restricts blood flow to the lower portion of the tail, which atrophies and detaches, or may be removed by using clean scissors, like dehorning. The tail is removed mainly due to two reasons. A. As part of dairy farm management procedures to improve working conditions for dairy workers, increase hygiene and reduce infection of diseases like leptospirosis, etc. Box 2.3. B. As part of treatment, e.g. tail crushing, injuries or infections. Fig. 2.3. The arguments supporting and against tail docking are summarized in Box 2.3. Box 2.3. Tail docking. A. Supporting arguments increase the overall hygiene and contribute to cleaner dairy animals, reduced risk of leptospirosis in milkers. Urine from infected animals is the primary source of transmission of leptospirosis, decrease the risk of other infections and mastitis, improved milk quality and milk hygiene. Improve the working conditions and comfort of farm workers while milking. B. Against arguments, welfare concerns, tail docking of calves or adult dairy animals is extremely painful, both acute and chronic pain. It causes discomfort and alters normal behavior, increased walking or running behavior, increased head-to-tail movement and licking, and less tail swinging and lying behavior following application of a rubber ring for tail docking. Natural defense mechanism and dairy animals are incapable to effectively keep away the flies once the tail is docked. There is no scientific evidence about any positive benefits of tail docking or improved performance of dairy animals. Tail docking does not contribute to the health and welfare of dairy animals, and therefore OI has not recommended it. As an alternative, trimming of tail hair should be considered where maintenance of hygiene is a problem. OI 2019. 2.5 Animal identification methods. Identification of dairy animals is required when more animals of similar group are there in the farm. Identification is an essential management practice to maintain following records of dairy animals: birth and age, parentage, production records, health history including medication and vaccination, recognition of animal, in case of theft, sale, insurance, etc. Different methods of permanent animal identification are practiced based on the type of animal and purpose. They are briefly summarized below. Ear tagging. It is the most commonly used practice in dairy animals with self-piercing or non-piercing ear tags. Tags are made of light non-rusting metal or strong plastic or aluminum. The flexible tags can be bought pre-numbered on both sides, or they can be purchased as blank tags. Ear notching. It involves cutting V-shaped portions of the ear along the borders that correspond to a specific number. Tattooing. It is commonly practiced in calves using tattooing machine and ink on the inner aspect of ear. Branding. Branding by using red-hot iron is another method to identify dairy animals from a distance. Freeze branding involves use of branding irons chilled in liquid nitrogen or dry ice with letters and numbers. Radio frequency identification device, RFID. This is the advanced electronic automated system that uniquely identifies each dairy animal along with its history, production, and health parameters. A microchip containing all the details is inserted under the skin of an animal. The OI recommended choosing least invasive approach to minimize pain and discomfort, e.g. least number of ear tags per ear and the smallest notch practical. Identification marking should be completed fast, expertly and with proper equipment. Freeze branding and branding with a hot iron should be avoided, where alternative identification methods exist, e.g. electronic identification or ear tags. When branding is used, the operator should be competent in procedures used and be able to recognize signs of complications. OIE 2019. The procedures like disbudding, dehorning, horn tipping, tail docking and identification methods are practiced mainly for three reasons. OIE 2019. 1. Management and handling of dairy animals. 2. Animal welfare and 3. Safety of animal handlers. The Terrestrial Animal Health Code, OIE 2019, recommended that these practices should be performed at early age using anesthesia to minimize pain and stress to the animal under the supervision of a veterinarian. The OIE suggested the following options for enhancing animal welfare. 1. Ceasing the procedure and addressing the need for the operation through management strategies. 2. Breeding dairy animals that do not require the procedure. 3. Replacing the current procedure with a non-surgical alternative to enhance animal welfare. 2.6 Lameness animals. Lameness is impaired locomotion of dairy animals characterized by alteration of gait due to disease or injury to the hoof or limb. It is one of the most serious welfare issues affecting dairy animals as it causes severe pain. The impaired walking ability is a consequence of the pain that walking normally causes. Lameness is the third most common reason for culling of dairy animals, after mastitis and infertility, co-septy and Eslimont. 1997. The causes of lameness in dairy animals are summarized in Box 2.4. Box 2.4. Causes of lameness in dairy animals, claw-hoof problems, up to 90% of lameness, and upper limb injuries, up to 10% of lameness. Interdigital necrosis of the claw, foot rot. Sole softness due to wet and hard floors, excess wear of the sole due to more body weight especially in advanced pregnancy stage. Increase in body weight due to selective breeding programs, example, indigenous breeds to crossbreed. And Holstein Friesian herds. Larger and crowded herd sizes, poor entries and exits to the milking shed, mud, sharp or large gravel, quick and long distance walking. Dairy animals normally walk with their heads down to see safe spots for their front foot and place hind foots in the same spots. Due to crowding and quick movement, dairy animals cannot watch their front foot step and results in foot injuries and lameness. The welfare issues in dairy animals related to lameness are acute and chronic pain, stress, unhealthy animals, gait changes arising from pain, behavioral changes like lying down due to pain and stress, Hoof checking and trimming at regular intervals help in preventing advancing the lameness. The guidelines given by OIE to prevent lameness are summarized in Box 2.5, Box 2.5, OIE guidelines on flooring, bedding, resting surfaces, and outdoor areas to prevent lameness. In all three production systems, dairy animals need a well-drained, comfortable, and sufficient space to lie down and rest at the same time, e.g. length, width and height should be appropriate for the size of the largest animal. Animal handlers should monitor the state of feet and observe behavior changes, e.g. altered locomotion and posture, altered lying time, grooming, and not using the intended lying areas. Flooring, bedding, resting surfaces, and outdoor yards should be cleaned too. Ensure good hygiene, comfort, and minimize foot injuries. Bedding should be provided to all animals housed on concrete. Entry and exit surfaces should be designed and operated to allow free movement of cattle. Floors should be designed to minimize slipping and falling, promote foot health, and reduce the risk of claw injuries. Collecting yards, e.g. entry to the milking parlor, should be designed and operated to minimize stress and prevent injuries and lameness. Long waiting times before and after milking to be avoided, if possible. Allow dairy animals to graze and exercise to decrease the risk of lameness. 2.7 Mastitis, infertility and hormonal injections. 2.7.1 Mastitis in dairy animals is the inflammation of the udder due to bacterial infection. It is a painful and major animal welfare issue among 25 to 45% of dairy animals. Dairy animals kept in low hygienic intensive systems with poor bedding are more likely to develop mastitis than dairy animals reared under extensive semi-intensive systems. Mastitis is one among the three major reasons for culling of dairy animals, the other two being lameness and infertility. Almost all of the street cattle abandoned in India have mastitis in one or more quarters of the udder. The pain indicators of mastitis in dairy animals is summarized in Box 2.6. Box 2.6. Mastitis pain indicators in dairy animals, behavioral indicators, physiological and production indicators, increased, restless during milking, heart and respiratory rate, hog-to-hog distance, rectal temperature, when standing, acute phase proteins, decreased, time spent lying down, milk yield and quality, time spent eating, dry matter intake, rumination, self-grooming. In summary, mastitis is a painful animal welfare problem in dairy animals. Improving housing conditions, hygiene, clean milk production, and treatment protocols are essential to address mastitis-linked dairy animal welfare issues. 2.7.2 Infertility. Dairy animals' infertility is a major productivity problem for farmers with high-yielding animals. The important reasons for infertility include nutritional deficiencies, stress, genetic factors, and poor body condition. Many researchers consider infertility as an indirect indicator of welfare of dairy animals. 2.7.3 Hormonal injections. When dairy animals are unable to give milk due to calf's death or calf has been taken away, oxytocin injection of up to 5 IUs is given twice a day to stimulate milk letdown, especially in buffaloes. Injecting growth hormones to fasten the growth and oxytocin hormone to relax udder muscles and milk letdown are painful and stressful to dairy animals. 2.8 Welfare issues in urban dairy animals. Urban and peri-urban dairying is an intensive dairy production system close to the markets wherein production requirements of animals like feeding, breeding, healthcare, etc. are provided completely in the stall. However, welfare issues of the animals are seriously compromised with respect to housing, flooring, bedding, etc., movement and dimensions of the stall. The demand for dairy products due to huge urban population and high income levels resulted in more urban peri-urban dairy farms with an average herd size of 15 to 20 high-yielding buffaloes crossbred cows. Out of 302.34 million dairy animals in India, approximately 30%, 91 million, are reared under intensive systems in urban peri-urban areas, and they are the ones suffering the poorest welfare. The average lifespan of a buffalo or cow is between 18 to 20 years, but it can live up to 25 years if given a natural healthy life. However, in urban dairying, the lifespan is very much shorter due to intense suffering and compromised animal welfare. They are sold to slaughterhouses or replaced typically after 4 or 5 lactations due to the following main reasons among others: drop in milk production, chronically lame, infertile, mastitis, housing and lighting is a major welfare issue for dairy animals in urban peri-urban areas. As land availability is less, more animals are confined in crowded environment with poor ventilation, high humidity, inadequate lying space, hard and wet floors. These conditions further increase the risk and spread of infection, like mastitis and lameness. Feed and fodder is another welfare issue. Dairy animals require lots of fiber in their diet. Animals raised in grazing systems and semi-intensive systems receive diet high in fiber. However, animals kept under intensive systems are fed with less forages and more concentrate, nutrient-dense diet to increase both milk production and milk fat. This leads to metabolic acidosis, diarrhea and painful laminitis. The major animal welfare issues of the urban dairy animals are summarized in Box 2.7. Box 2.7. Major animal welfare issues in urban dairy animals. Behavioral restrictions tying with a rope or chain to restrict movement for most of the time, overcrowding and compromised housing with less space per animal, compromised environment, hygiene and ventilation with hardly any sunlight, zero grazing and no exercise, heat, stress and poor physiological support to match the production. Low fiber diet and overfeeding of concentrates to increase milk production and milk fat, leading to metabolic disorders, lameness, mastitis, and infertility. Minimal access to veterinary care. The World Animal Protection has worked with key Indian stakeholders and developed the National Dairy Code with 10 welfare criteria for dairy animals. Box 2.8. Box 2.8. National Dairy Code with 10 welfare criteria. 1. All dairy animals have 24-hour access to clean water. 2. All dairy animals receive good quality feed fodder. 3. All animals have access to suitable shade and shelter. 4. All calves receive milk or an adequate substitute within 24 hours after being born. 5. All animals have a comfortable and clean resting area. 6. All animals have access to veterinary care. 7. No animals are confined indoors permanently. 8. No animals are permanently tethered. 9. All farms have a humane plan in place to manage male calves. 10. All farms have an animal health and welfare plan that is regularly updated. Please refer Block 1 under MAW 004 for more discussion on the National Dairy Code with the above 10 welfare criteria. 2.9 Surplus dairy calves. Normally the calves, both male and female, suckle their mothers for 8 to 12 months and maintain calf-mother bond for years. Most female calves are reared as replacement stock to join the milking herd. Earlier in mixed farming systems, the male calves are reared equally on par with the female calves for breeding and agricultural purposes. However, with the advent of crossbreeding, artificial insemination and mechanization, the male calves are considered surplus. Box 2.9. The welfare issues pertaining to male calves are: in intensive dairy farming, almost all calves are taken away from mothers within hours to few days of birth, weaning. This causes severe distress to both the cow and the calf. The female calves are reared separately as replacement stock. The male calves are either killed or neglected to die a natural death or sold to be reared for veal or beef. In extensive and semi-extensive systems, after weaning, the female calves are reared separately as replacement stock. The male calf's welfare is neglected with compromised care, feeding, shelter, sometimes left astray, animals and left to die. The sexed semen technology, which is yet to be standardized and made available, can help in having more female calves and help in tackling the welfare concerns of male calves. Box 2.9 The torture of calves. Calves are deprived of their share of milk. Male calves are largely unwanted, sent to slaughter, or left as stray animals or tied to a pole allowed to die slowly of starvation. Their carcasses are collected to make ahimsic leather products. In some countries, they are sold to wheel farms at birth, suffer the 14 to 17 weeks before slaughter in wheel crates that prevent movement. They are fed an anemia-inducing diet so as to produce the tender white wheel meat. These are now banned in Europe in favor of rose wheel where the animals are reared more humanely with access to forage and in social groups. The separation of cow and calf early weaning is also a significant issue. There are some progressive farmers in parts of Europe that are working on cow with calf systems to try to keep animals together for longer. Some male calves have their stomachs slit soon after birth to make rennet from the stomach for the cheese industry and wheel for meat production. In India, this is banned in favor of microbial rennet. It is also stressful to cows to lose their young ones repeatedly. Female calves are brought up to join their mothers as milk producers. Even several goshalas, built for the welfare of cows, separate the calf from its mother in order to milk the cow. 2.10 Summary. In this unit you were introduced to some specific animal welfare issues of dairy animals and dairy calves. The specific animal welfare issues in dairy animals are disbudding, dehorning and horn tipping, tail docking, animal identification methods, lameness, mastitis, infertility, hormonal injections, welfare issues in urban dairy animals, and surplus dairy calves. The suggested options for enhancing animal welfare are ceasing the procedure and addressing the need for the operation through management strategies, breeding dairy animals that do not require the procedure, and replacing the current procedure with a non-surgical alternative to enhance animal welfare. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.